Okay, today on the show, we have Ali Garced from Ali the Agent Brokerage with EXP. Now, let me tell you more about Ali. Now, Ali Garced, who is known as Ali the Agent on all social media platforms, developed checklists, systems, and processes to be able to close 55 transactions in her first 2 years as an agent. Super amazing. All while being a solo agent and in her first year, and she still had a full time job at the time. Amazing. She had more leads than time, so she grew her realtor downline, her team. She developed this. Listen to this, everybody. This is so cool. She developed a 180-step onboarding checklist that her agents all over the country use, and also has a 200-step checklist on working with buyers and sellers from start to finish so agents can treat this as an actual business. And she gives these checklists and systems and processes to all of the realtors that partner with her. She's a fanatic of tracking her numbers, and so she has two Excel sheets that she tracks. One is her hourly pay broken down by category, how much she makes per hour working with each seller, buyer, referral, which is really smart. And the other tracker tracks how many conversations she has every day, week, and month that lead to appointments and closings. She is more than happy to share these trackers with anyone in our audience that asks for it. So guess what? You're going to ask for it. I want you all to grab your phone, unless you're driving, don't do it then, but grab your phone, go to whatever social platform, Instagram, I know she is big on, and just do a search for Ali the Agent, ALI. So ALI the Agent, you'll find her. She's super easy to find, and partner or message her, and she will get you those checklists, and you can even learn a lot more from her. By the way, she is also a veteran of the armed forces, so we want to honor her for her service. She's too humble to say that, but that's what she has done for our country, and we thank her for that. Ali, welcome to. Oh, and by the way, also follow her on her website, which is garcedrealty.com, Garced realty.com. She has tons of resources for agents on there as well. So follow her on social media, Ali the Agent, and then follow her on her website, Garced Realty. Ali, welcome to the show.
DJ, that's the best intro I've ever received. I really appreciate that.
Can we say that this is such a fun episode for me because Ali sent a message in to our podcast not that long ago in the last couple of months, and she was mentioned, and we always love when people tell us that our show helped them grow their business, and it appears that our show has helped you, and I am so honored to have a listener now on as a guest. We've done that just a few times in the about 500 episodes. So this is a big win for me. I am so happy that you're here. And also, you just seem like a really fun person, and you do a lot. I'm really a big fan of yours now. So I'm glad you reached out to us so that we can now have this conversation. And it was an instant yes. I was like, we got to have her on because this is amazing. But let's start at the very beginning of the journey, because you haven't been doing this all that long, and yet you have amassed a huge team. You've done a ton of transactions, and you are now teaching agents how to duplicate the success that you've had. So, but let's start at the very beginning before you knew how to do any of this. So, how did you get into real estate? Was it immediately after leaving military, or tell me about sort of how that worked?
Yeah. So I actually got into real estate first through investing, and I purchased my first, condo because I was active duty Air Force for a decade. I recently separated. Um, so I started investing. I realized that I liked it, and not all of the agents were,
They're not
top
all created
tier.
equal.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll say that way. Some agents were great. Some agents are I was like, "Hey, did you ever even go on the property?" Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, um, as I knew that I wanted to separate from the military. I was unhappy. I was looking at the people that I would be replacing, the colonels, lieutenant colonels, and I didn't wanna be where they were. That's not the life that I wanted to live. So I was thinking, how I knowing that I want to separate from the military, knowing that I wanna run away from something, what am I gonna run toward? What should I do? I wanna start my own business because I don't wanna work for somebody else. I'm kinda done with W-2s. I'm kinda done with deploying. I've been out of the country 3 years. I don't wanna be out of the country another 3 in order just to get the military retirement pay. Not worth it for me. So, I was thinking of all sorts of things. My wife in the background was like, "Hey, how about you become a realtor? How about you become a realtor? Realtor, realtor." And I was like, "No. I don't like kitchens. I don't like cutesy stuff. I don't wear heels. I certainly don't dress up." I'm like, "This is no." I think I'll pass on that. It's all selling sunset, right? Like the TV says.
Sure.
So But the more that I started listening to podcasts, 'cause that's exactly what I did first. Hey, before I become a licensed realtor, let me see what the struggles are of agents. Let me see what the process is like. Let me just see. So, what do you know? Podcasts are free. I stumbled across yours, and I've been listening to yours every single day. I am not kidding.
Oh, that
So,
is so s
yeah.
that is flattery will get you everywhere, Allie, so thank you. You are now my absolute favorite guest I've ever had on the show, but I say that to every guest, so, but no, but thank you, and I think we are not the only show out there. I'm glad you found ours. There are some other really excellent ones. Real Estate Rockstars is very good. Massive Agent is very good. So shout out to those other podcasts that are helping people as well. I am just one of many, but I'm glad that and talk about because there are lots of great shows out there. How did that help prepare you? Was it just sort of understanding this is the path and this is what it takes to sort of succeed?
Yeah, so knowing that the barrier was low, right? The barrier to entry to being a realtor, anybody can do it as long as you're not a felon and you pass the test. Great. You know, that's the pool is very large. So as I was listening to podcasts that interview top agents that know how to run a business, that's when I realized that's when the light turned on for me as far as it being an actual business. It's not showing homes and talking about how cute a house is, which is like not my thing, you know? It's like so as I realized that there are funnels and there's a way to scale it and there's a way to automate stuff. So that way you're not answering the same questions over and over again. You provide the same level of service, actually, I think better if you compile all the frequently asked questions and make a video series for buyers, for sellers, for referrals, for agents, for everything. That will buy you back so much of your time. So that's when I realized, "Hey, there's a process to this, and I that's how I wanna run my business." And that's when I realized it's not just, oh, showing doors, which all clients think it is. So that's when I got my license, and I got my license in, 2021. I was still active duty Air Force because again, I'm very risk averse. I didn't wanna separate from the military, and then at that point after that, after I'm without a job, realize that I don't even like being a realtor.
Right.
So, I gave myself 1 year as because I had 1 year left in my active duty Air Force commitment before I separated as a major, and I gave myself 1 year, "Can I make as much as I'm making right now in the military?" And at the time, it was $107,000. I was like, "I just wanna
Which,
meet
by the
that."
way, that is a tough barrier to clear in your first year as an agent. Like that is a great salary in general, right? Like 107,000. It's probably not enough for people that want to earn more, of course. But for all intents and purposes, that's a really good salary and not an easy one to just go out and get. And so to give yourself a year is really putting the pressure on you to sort of make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, so I told everyone I knew, "Hey, I'm getting my license. I'm not licensed yet, but I'm getting my license." And I have experience, right? Like I've been purchasing properties. So people knew, already started making that connection. Allie, the agent, which I was a federal agent for the Air Force, so that was my handle. And the military thought I was like me being a special agent. And of course, I'm like, no, I'm a real estate agent now. So and so I started telling everyone that I knew, and I matched that salary of $107,000 by month 8 of me being a realtor,
That's
solo,
incredible.
part-time. I was still traveling in the military and everything too. I was like, it was completely unsustainable. I am very much so aware. Like I could not do both at the same time forever. So knowing that I matched that at month 8, and then of course I continued making more because of the that's how sales work. Um, at that point, I realized, 1, I matched the income, which is what I wanted to do. I made it in less time, and I didn't have the stress of being in the military, which I was not the biggest fan of, and I liked it. So then I doubled down, I separated from the Air Force, and now I have since then, like, grown the I don't wanna say the word team because we don't have any team splits. There are no team splits. It's so downline, I guess, like I've grown the downline to 30 agents and we're growing at like 3 agents a month, and I have all of the checklists because as I was doing it, I didn't want somebody else to ask me the question of, "Hey, what's this
Right.
step again?" and me not know. How am I gonna
Right.
be a resource to them if I don't know? So I'm like, "Hey, as I go through every single hurdle, I'm gonna add it to the checklist," and I do everything on Trello. It's free. So I add it to the Trello checklist and I give them all access, and it takes them step by step.
And by the way, I should a little shout out to Trello. I since the beginning of my podcast, I've only used Trello to manage all of my guests' information and our workflow. And there are other systems out there, but if you're looking for a visual system to basically manage projects or to dos, there aren't a lot of them out there, and it's basically a cool way for those of us who are a little bit more visually minded to be able to see. I used to work at a software company, and we all the developers. There was this big whiteboard with all these stickies, and if you've ever watched a movie where it's software developers usually can see this thing where there's stickies and they move them around, and it just from a visual perspective, it was better for me to be able to see everything. So shout out to Trello. Ali uses it. Countless of our agents, or sorry, of our guests have used it, and our agents here at our firm. And I will say, to your point about accumulating sort of like frequently asked questions from your clients, that even if you're a solo agent and you don't have a team, you need to put this together for yourself, because it will allow you to copy and paste responses that are to frequently asked questions when you get those texts and emails from your client. We have almost 800 agents here at our firm, and one of the smartest things we did for our own to be able to support our own agents is, obviously, if we got 800 phone calls a day, we wouldn't be able to do much support for our brokers. Sorry, in Illinois, everyone's a broker, so I'll say realtor for our realtors. So we created a frequent basically a knowledge base, a wiki that our agents can use. And so having that, even for just yourself, is so important, so that you, like Ali was saying, she wants to scale her business, and she can't be doing these as many one-to-one interactions if she can automate some of that stuff. So cheers to you for
Yeah.
that. That is really, really amazing. I want to dive into some of these checklists too, because I have had a lot of people on the show over the years with checklists, but nobody's talked about it in a long time. And if I were a practicing agent, I would be using checklists, no question about it. Also, I just want to say, as a quick aside, just as a personal thing, we were just talking before we started the show, Ali and I, and I won't mention where she's from, just in case there's a privacy thing, but she and I have actually been to her Air Force base. And so the funny part is, I said I was actually at a base near where you are, and we talked about it. So I have literally been to where she worked, and I mean, what are the odds of that? So anyway, just kind of a funny thing. 20 years ago, but I was still there. But anyway, okay, let's talk about these checklists, because I think it's one of those things that we just assume every agent uses and has, but I think most agents don't. So let's talk
Yeah.
about sort of what they're there to do, and how they work, and how you created them.
Yeah, so I started creating them with as I was going through each transaction. There is some forward thinking that you can, try to predict, what could happen, but every transaction goes so different every single time. So it's frequently asked questions was my number one. As soon as any client, buyer, seller, referral, anybody asked me a question, I would drop that same question, like copy and paste it into the Trello, and then at that point, if I got questions that same question over and over again, I would make a video out of that, because it's one thing to respond back, copy and paste a text, um, but it's another thing for them to see you explaining it to you, even if you're not saying not personalizing and saying, "Hey, Cindy, you asked this question, this is the answer." They e Even if they realize this same video goes to all of the buyers, goes to all of the sellers, they realize, "Oh, this is a whole business for her, and she treats us as such."
Yeah,
There's a difference when you're just scrambling and answering a phone call, which, by the way, I do not answer any phone call. I'm on track to triple my military income on my first year as a full-time agent, tripling my income, and I don't answer phone calls.
I love it.
Um, yeah, unless, like, it's already a client, we're under contract, and there's something, then at that point I will, but every other call is spam, and it's just a waste of my time. I don't even wanna tally up how many hours or minutes I spend over a course of a week back when I did answer phone calls, answering these phone calls that were just calls. So, I don't answer calls. Actually, a quick checklist on that is I have an iPhone, but I'm sure you could do this on the any other phone that you have. Whenever you get a phone call coming in, you can either respond with those auto responses that the iPhone has. It says, "I'm
Yeah.
in a meeting. I'll call you back shortly." I rephrased it and I say, "Hey, I'm currently with the client at the moment. I'm giving them my full attention. Can I help you with anything via text?" And usually,
Brilliant.
yeah,
I
usually
love that.
a question that it can be resolved via text and or sometimes, which is a lot of the times I know realtors, I know you hear me on this, where a lot of times it's a question that the client just all of a sudden, wanted answered right away. When they have access to the answer, give them a little bit of time for them to do their own research, they will find their own answer. I'm not saying that they're going to run their whole transaction, but a lot of times it's, hey, what school district is this in? That's on Google, like that. Can I help you via text? That adds that extra hurdle. And again, not saying it's like losing any client customer service, but it's in fact, I really think it's the opposite where, hey, I can't just ask my realtor any question. At that point, I'm asking them to bend over backward and I lose respect for that realtor because clearly they have no time since they're answering all of my questions. So it's treating everything as a checklist. Anyway, going back to the original question of checklists, and so for buyers, sellers, as I had each transaction, I would go through the process. What do I do before I even meet with them? What do I do once I meet with them? What do I do to get them under contract? What do I do once we're under contract? What are some common, occurrences that happen? What are the timelines that I know crap need to know? And how do I follow up with them after because after the transaction's over to make sure they become a repeat customer, client. So after I had those, at first it was just written on Trello. I then turned those into a video. So I have a buyer video packet. I put all the videos in one PDF. They all go back to my YouTube. And that way it's a series. And then same thing for sellers. And same thing for agents now. For onboarding, I mean, we have a 180 step onboarding Trello checklist for all realtors.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. And we should also talk about sort of the ancillary benefit of putting this information together, which is after practicing herself exclusively, she was like, and I'm not telling your story, but I'm just making up the story in my head, but something to the effect of, oh, by the way, this could be useful to other agents who haven't yet put these materials together. And Allie by now has so many agents asking her, hey, teach me how you do that. Because number one, she did 55 transactions in her first 2 years, which is insane. We all know this while working a full time job, we should mention, and being traveling for the Air Force and doing all of the responsibilities there, defending our country, and oh by the way, doing all this transactions. And she systematized everything, and now all these agents have reached out to her because they see what she's doing on social media and they see the sort of processes and systems she's built, and now they're asking her for that information. And guess what that does for Allie? It helps her in her referral business. So she can now focus a lot of her time on coaching and teaching and still produce by referring a business all over the country and referrals coming both ways. So I think that in and of itself is such a cool thing because it gives you this other way you can also grow as a realtor and more, we'll call it a modern realtor, being mostly on the referral side simply by providing value to agents all over the country. So it's like it opened up this whole nother business for you, which is so, so cool.
Yeah, and as you stated before, I track my numbers. I didn't I because I wanna know how much I make per hour, right? I
Yeah, I
wanted to
love that.
compare it. Yeah, back in the days of, like, me being stressed out over leaving the Air Force, should I leave it? Knowing I was miserable. Um, I just wanted, again, to compare it to what I was making before. I didn't wanna downgrade, I didn't wanna lose money. So, I created a spreadsheet, and it's just Excel, it's nothing crazy, anybody could do it, but I just have it looking pretty, so if you wanna message me. But, I created a spreadsheet where every single client that I ever had, I categorized how many hours am I driving around? How many hours am I negotiating with the cross sale or cross agent? How many hours am I doing, under negotiations, sitting there at inspections, whatever it is. So tally every single hour that you spend per client for all the sellers. Add them all up, divide by the commission
Yeah,
or
what is it by
commission
the way?
divide by hours.
What does it average out to for a seller and a buyer? I'd love to know that number. Those numbers.
S Yeah, so every business is different. My business, very surprisingly, because I thought, listings are everything, listing is life. Listings was my lowest at $162 per hour.
Wow.
That was my lowest
Why is that, do you think?
because I was sitting at open houses. There were some
Yes. Oh,
realtors
got it.
that wanted me and not anybody else, they wanted me to be at the open house, and of course, that's a conversation that I since then have told them I don't do that, plus it doesn't even help sell your house. It's for
Right.
realtors to get
It's
more
good for me to
clients.
get leads. It's not good. And you know
Yeah.
what? By the way, What an honest and amazing thing to tell somebody because they are going to think, well, this my friend's realtor is setting all these open houses for me, and what's Allie doing for me? And all you do have to say is, by the way, there's a little sort of secret in the industry that you could easily Google and find out that I'm telling the truth here is it doesn't actually sell your house. It's great for me to get leads though. So yeah,
Yeah.
so perfect thing.
Yeah.
And I think being able to tell a seller or a buyer, any of the sort of trade secrets, which aren't even really secrets, I think is so important to building trust and intimacy with your clients, because now all of a sudden they're like, Allie's telling me something no other realtor has told me.
Yeah, and that really it comes with knowing presenting yourself as the person that you are no matter where you're at. So the clients that you get are already attracted to you. They know you as a person. You don't have to pretend to be somebody else. So yeah, at the lowest I was making I make $162 $2 per seller, $360 per referral,
Uh-huh.
and $453 per hour working with a buyer, which is
Wow.
the
How's
complete
that
opposite.
possible?
I I it's I know it's because I have just
Because of your checklist. It's
perfected
because of your
I've
checklist.
perfected that checklist, yeah, so it's I have it down to a T, like, they don't even need to answer any questions. The common response that I get from buyers is, "Allie, you answered my questions before I even knew I had them.
Right.
Perfect. Can
Exactly.
you add that in my Google? Can you give me a five-star review on my Google and say exactly that?"
Yes,
Um,
yes. And by the way, my boss, when I bought my first condo, now he's my boss, but we were just friends, and he was my realtor because that's how it works. And once I started working here, I had said to him, I'm like, "You are a really good realtor." It was my first experience. This is like 2005, and I said, "What?" I couldn't quite put my finger on why he was so good. I said, "What was your philosophy back then?" And he goes, "I never wanted somebody to have to call me first. I wanted to give them the information before they even knew there was a question, and that way they wouldn't bother me, they wouldn't call me, and also I would seem like a professional." So
yeah. No, 100%. And now the realtors that are like using these checklists that I have for the buyers, for sellers, for referrals, I mean everything is on there. There's one agent that joined the crew less than a year ago. She switched brokerages, and at the previous brokerage, what she made that entire in an entire year, she made that in 2 months because she was able to scale. Like it's not rocket science, you know? It's, hey, what are these questions that I'm always getting? What question bothers me? Think about that. Like, what is the one question that I hate answering? You have to make a video out of it. So, and then make that video, link it to some resources that again, you can just send to buyers and sellers.
gosh, I absolutely love all of that. This idea of systematizing and having processes, but I am still fascinated that buyers were actually the most profitable for you. Why is that? What do you think it's because the checklist was so? And we're talking about the pre checklist, working with a buyer, making sure you know everything they possibly could ever look for and want and need, their musts, their shoulds, their whatever, and then going, okay, I know so much about what you want, I'm not going to be showing you 25 properties, we can probably narrow it down to 3 or 4. Or I'm assuming that's kind of how that worked, or am I wrong?
That's exactly it. Yeah. So majority being that I was military, I all of my clients, I've only ever done VA loans. I've only ever done like
Sure.
one FHA. The rest were only VA. I've like never done conventional. So all the clients that I was getting was from my military sphere. They were all
Sure.
out of state because their military is PCSing them or moving them. And they're all out of state buyers. I'm the one driving on my own time. I'm not meeting with somebody there. So I had to schedule I had to make a process out of that, right? I have to take a video of the outside, of the inside, of the neighborhood as I'm driving in, driving out, upload it all to a Google Drive, give them the link. They have access to pause, rewind, zoom in, zoom out, and that is way better than a FaceTime or scheduling a Zoom call between spouses and me. And no, that's doesn't work. So I save time that way. And
Did you ever, oh, by the way, real quick, did you ever use the same video for multiple clients? Because you could make that video once, and if the place is still on the market, you could possibly use it for, again, assuming that people are looking for the same kind of property. I guess you could do that technically.
right, I could. I never actually had that
That
happen.
never
So
came up,
that would have been
probably, but
nice.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So and it's being very upfront with them, and I feel like I can be with my military clients and now people that reach out to me, they already know my personality. They know how I don't have to there's no front. I curse, I don't dress up, I will show up in flip-flops, like, or gym attire, and I will get you your house. So the biggest thing I say is because I was predominantly a buyer's agent back when it was the hardest to be a buyer's agent when I first got started. And I got all of my offers accepted on the first one except for 2 different clients, which took 3 attempts. It would and that's because I go above and beyond, and I tell the clients before that. I'm like, "Hey, I will do whatever it takes to make sure that you get your offer accepted." So, your friends that are placing 12, 13 offers to get a property accepted, that's not gonna be the case with you, and I can say that confidently because, again, that barrier to becoming a realtor is very low. That is the one time I make outbound calls, I just don't answer inbound, so I call the listing agent, I'm like, "Hey, what can we do to get our offer accepted? My buyer is serious."
Perfect question.
And
Not yeah, you're basically saying, "Hey, whatever you're all seeing out there, what can we do because we want this home. So what can we do to make this work?" Perfect question because it really there's a presupposition there that they're going to help you make and if they can't, if they won't, they won't, but you're basically saying, "Hey, I want this. What does it take?" And it forces the person to answer that question in their head and then hopefully they'll share
Mhm.
that with you and give you the secret little tip that you need to take it over the top.
Absolutely. And then I tell the clients before I even call the listing agent, I tell the clients a couple of things. One is as we go over your specific criteria, you will realize that you're not looking at 20 homes. There are only 4 to 5 homes that actually meet what you're looking for. So, as you're looking at houses that don't meet all of those criteria, make sure that it's a level 7 out of 10 before you send it my way because I don't want to waste your time or my time. And I'm very honest up front. I'm like, I don't want to waste my time or your time going to these properties if you don't even really feel like you're going to place an offer. And then I tell them that I'm going to reach out to the listing agent and do whatever it takes to get their offer accepted. So do not be surprised when your offer is accepted. I don't want you backing out because, and again,
Right.
I'm
That makes
very
you look
honest.
bad. Yeah.
It exactly, and I tell them I am a new realtor. The last thing I wanna do is ruin my reputation by being that agent that backs out, gets the
Right.
offer in and then backs out. And so I tell every single client that, like, I do not ruin my reputation for me. My reputation is the only thing that I have, you know? So,
Sure.
and at that point, it becomes a team thing, right? They're like, "Oh, wow, yeah, I don't want to just treat my agent as somebody that can just throw offers here, left and there, spaghetti at the wall." Um, I become more human to them instead of just somebody that will, a robot that's going to be doing work for them.
Plus, I also think too, like as thinking about it from a buyer's perspective, does a buyer want to go through the emotional ups and downs of losing 12 deals, 12 offers for 12 properties? Like they are going to, I can't even imagine how emotionally draining that would be for a buyer. And certainly I guess, a realtor who's charismatic enough could maybe survive their reputation to their buyer, just going, well, this is the way the market is, whatever. I'm sure there's a way to talk through it, but it's certainly not a good experience for a buyer to go through that. And also you don't have the time to do that. You don't have time to write 12 offers. And I mean, it's just too much.
Right.
So
Right. Well, I don't either.
any other tips? I'm sorry, I have to ask because I'm so fascinated by this. How any other tips to get offers accepted other than, hey, Mr. List or Mrs. Listing Agent, what can we do to make this happen? Any other sort of like in the way you present the packages to your to the seller, to the seller's agent, what are you actually doing? Is there any little tips and tricks that you'd recommend to agents to help get their offers, because there are some agents that just don't answer the phone when other agents are calling in because they got 20 other offers. So are there things that you were laughing because this you deal with this all the time. So when you don't get someone on the phone or when they're not willing to sort of give you any sort of help, what are you doing in addition to that to get these offers accepted?
I love this question, DJ. So first, I talk to the buyers about it, right? Like for buyers and for sellers, I have seller email number 1 through 6, buyer email number 1 through 6. In the packet that comes out in buyer email number 2 is all of like my secrets, right? Because buyer email number 1 is for any buyer. If they don't want to work with me, they won't get buyer email number 2. Buyer email number 2 is once where you and I are working together. In buyer email number 2, there's that PDF that has my whole video series. One of those videos is 7 ways to get your offer accepted. Again, it links back to my YouTube. So, although I think I have that unlisted because it's just for my clients, but I'm gonna share this, DJ. So in some states, they do not require non-refundable earnest money. How, like, how im important to the seller, and how can you wow a seller by saying, "Wow, no one else is offering non-refundable earnest money. These are more serious because earnest money, good faith money is it's
It's
taken
kinda nothing.
a lot.
It's
It's
basically nothing.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
anything can happen, the buyers will get their money back, at least,
Of
in certain
course,
states.
well, that's the joke of it all. At least here in Illinois, like, there's almost no way for anybody to actually keep earnest money, so it's all a big kinda like, "What are we doing here?" Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So why not offer something? And I'm not talking thousands of dollars, I'm talking 500 bucks. And then that also gives the buyers the buy-in. Oh, wait, do I really want to miss out on 500 bucks? Do I really like this property enough? That's number 1. Number
Love
2
that.
is yeah. Number 2 is the escalation clause, of course, like, "Hey, if you have another offer, we will beat it by 500, 1,000, you know? And then, of course, talking to the listing agent too. Is 500 bucks or is that extra amount of the escalation clause even worth it? And have them decide, if they don't wanna respond to you, that's fine, which I will say actually right now is if you get a listing agent that doesn't respond, then send them a video text. Don't send them a text because how many texts do you get a day? That's just words. That's people just trying to solicit business. No. Send them a video text. Hey, what's up, DJ? My name is Ali Garced. I'm with eXp Realty, and I don't want to bother you, so I just wanted to send you this quick video. I have buyers that are very interested in 123 Main Street. What can we do to get their offer accepted? Please give me a call back when you can. Thank you so much. That's it. Like 4 seconds.
I love it.
And
And do you do that, like, on Loom or BombBomb, or are you sending a video text, or what how do you what's the way that you do that?
I was doing it on BombBomb, but that BombBomb creates another layer of friction where they have to click.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to click and then it goes to the link. So I just send it, especially if it's iPhone to iPhone. Ugh, so it's so easy. I just send an actual video from my phone to
Yeah.
them as a text message. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah,
And same thing for Android.
and I know you can't see the open rates on those. You'd be able to see BombBomb,
Mhm.
but, what do you think the open rates are when you send those video chats to other agents? It's gotta be pretty high,
100%.
I'm guessing. Yeah,
100. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Because 1, they see because everyone else, the barrier is so low, everyone else leaves it at a phone call, leaves it at a voicemail. I don't answer voice I don't even listen to voicemails. If it's that important,
right.
you will call me back or you'll text me because my voicemail says, "Text me."
Yeah,
So, and everyone else just does a text, which now all text seems so spammy. Make
yeah, they
yourself
do.
look like a human. Yeah, and showcase your personality. You don't have to be like the whole bubbly person, but if you're real, if I get a video text message, that shows me that that person is serious. They created a whole video for me, even if it was 4 seconds. Now I know what they look like. I already like them.
Yeah.
I do want to work with them. Maybe I do want to trust them to get their offer accepted, all that. So that's number 3, I guess. Uh, Number 4, I have 7 different ways in my video, and this has been a while since I've actually worked with buyers. Because then my 2nd year, I worked mainly sellers when it was harder to be a seller's a listing agent.
But,
And now my
I'm
business
telling you though,
is like all
just
referrals.
as you're trying to find a few of those other tips, and you don't have to have them all in front of you, of course. But I know what the title of this episode is going to be, and it's going to be, believe it or not, it's more profitable to work with buyers. And this is going to be our most downloaded episode ever because nobody is going to be like, there's no way that's possible, and we are going to show that it is. So I love these tips. I do have a question I wanted to ask you when it comes to submitting offers. What do we think about love letters? And for those of us that don't know what a love letter is, this is when you have your clients write a letter about how much they love the house and what they plan to do with it, and how grateful they'd be if the offered get accepted. Basically a lot of interpersonal sort of stuff. And there's debate on this. There's lots of debates on possibly is it even violating fair housing. So there's a whole sort of compliance issue. Some states are okay with it, others aren't. But it's a controversial topic. What do you think about
Mhm.
those?
As Before I got my license, I loved love letters because I was an investor. I'm like, "Hey, I wanna tug at the heartstrings," and, all of
Yeah,
that, but now that I'm a realtor, first of all, $25,000 fine, I'm not gonna mess with that. I'm not gonna mess with that. So I switched my opinion on that. I do not like love letters. Plus, with a love letter, yes, there are some things that you cannot say to not violate any housing rules, but even I don't understand because even when you sign it, even if you add a photo, they see what you look like, you know, they
Yeah.
see what that couple looks like or what that person, the type of dog, anything. And when they sign their names, you can judge based off of their names.
Sure.
So if a judge
It's
really
too
it's a
risky is what you're saying. Yeah, it's just too
way
risky.
too risky. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I plus, yeah, you don't need it. I get my offers accepted.
Do you know that is such a yeah, right, you don't need it anyway, but it's such a strong point for those of us that are still doing love letters. Let's just think about a scenario here where you don't want to lose your license, you don't want to get in trouble, and certain states are more lenient about it than others. But let's think about this. They see the last name being signed, and let's just say it's Garcia, just choosing a name at random. They can make an assumption based on that last name and ethnicity, where that person's from. People can make assumptions about education, finances, and all of a sudden now we're into this weird fair housing gray area where we haven't
Yeah.
technically violated fair housing because we're not saying, hey, this is so and so Garcia and look at all the cool stuff associated with that name. It's But people do make those assumptions because we're just human beings who like to put people in categories. And all of a sudden now, whatever we think about that last name Garcia might start flooding into our decision making strategy as a seller or as a seller's agent. And so you just don't want to be part of that at all because maybe even 5 years later, if your client feels like, oh, I bought a bad property, and they talk to an attorney and they're like, ooh, look at this, we could make an assumption that, based your realtor sort of did the wrong thing, even though it wasn't intentionally done for the wrong reason. So you just made a very, very compelling case to just let's just play on this on the safe side and not give somebody the opportunity to make a decision that possibly could violate fair housing. Yeah, smart.
Yeah. Along with that too, what typically goes on a love letter? A photo. So
Yeah.
now they're judging based off of what you look like with the clothes, the
Yes.
background, you know, like what's what kind
Yes.
of what town of, you know, what town are you in? So
Yeah.
everything. And the timing itself, even if it was black and white, like I know that this one, you know, would not violate any housing rules, the timing never works out. So I don't know, you know, because as soon as we're placing an offer or my clients want to look at a property, want to make an offer on a property, they're at that point, then they're gonna snail mail, you know, or maybe find an email that they might not open. Then they're gonna snail mail. At that point, we're already under contract. That it's just, you know, it's so no, I don't like love letters.
No, that makes perfect sense. How important is it to develop relationships with other realtors in your market? Because of course, love letters, we talked about potential fair housing violations, but having strong relationships with other realtors does possibly help grease the wheels because we like to work with people we like. In a lot of cases, that may help push you over the edge if you have similar or very identical offers possibly. So I'm curious on, we've talked a lot about what you do for clients, but when you work with other realtors, how are you trying to keep those relationships strong as well?
That's a super good point because that will make or break you getting an offer accepted or you accepting someone else's offer when you're the listing agent. Like, "Hey, I know that buyer's agent always places an offer, gets it under contract, and then their buyers always back out." You know, like it's like in the beginning of the episode. It's everything. Relationships are everything. And so I tell the clients too. I tell the list, you know, my sellers, I tell my buyers this. Uh, the relationships between realtors are everything. I will let you know, whether or not I have had a transaction with them in the past, whether it went smooth or not, because there are some people on my red list that I will not work with again. And I will tell, of course, at the end of the day, if the buyers really want the property, of course, but I will tell them what happened previously, because it can happen again. So that's my fiduciary duty to my client is to let them know what could go wrong. So, and then of course, the list of people to work with is always bigger, which is nice. But yeah, of course, if I know of someone that's a black and white or, you know, side by side offer, which is the same thing, and I know I have worked with an agent in the past and they're professional, they get the job done. They, you know, they work with their client, they're communicative. And then the other one I've never worked with or I've heard poor things about, I'll tell my sellers that exactly. Like, "Hey, this is what I know. This is what I hear. You make the decision. If you wanna go with the agent that we've never worked with before, cool. It's completely your choice. It's not my house."
Yeah, and I think it's also important for everyone listening to remember that there's always a wrinkle in every single transaction. There's always going to be something that comes up at some point that is going to completely freak the client out. It's just what's going to happen. It's just the way it works. And so understanding that you're going to have to solve for that anyway. Um, at some point is really important because it's going to happen, but trying to minimize the wrinkles is really the job of the realtor, or one of the jobs of the agent. And so this idea of knowing, hey, this person, here's what I know about them, I think is really, really important, because you want to minimize, whatever the unknown challenges that may be coming up.
100%.
I'm so impressed with this, because we're really talking about his process. And as we're talking, I'm almost I want to talk to you offline, because I'm curious if one of the things with our show. So I'm sort of speaking to the audience right now. I apologize for taking a moment of Allie's time away from her, but I want you guys who are listening and or who are fans. One of the things about being a podcaster is it's really a 1 to 0 relationship, because we don't oftentimes get feedback. Like, we know because people download and we know those kind of numbers, but we don't get a lot of like, here's what I'd like to hear more of or less of. And I realized as Allie was talking, one of the things I haven't done a good job of on the show, because I'm not a practicing realtor. So I just always go, I don't really know a lot about process. But we haven't really ever had a dedicated series around process, and like specifically like step by step. So I am curious to, speaking to our listeners, if you would like a regular series on process, like literally, how do I win a listing presentation? How do I work with buyers? How do I win offers? All of the how to's, like specific step by step. Well, we have somebody on the show right now who maybe would be willing to come back and do that on a more regular basis. I have to pitch it to her. She's probably too busy to do it. But if you're looking for that kind of stuff, that like what we're talking about right now, tell us, because we work for you guys. We work for the audience. So please tell us what you want, because this to me is blowing my mind, and I don't do enough of conversations like this. So Allie, back to you. I apologize, but you are doing such important work for our audience right now. If this is resonating with you guys, please let us know, so we can do more of this, and maybe we can have Allie back on a more regular basis, and she can go through all 180 steps of one of her checklists and 200 steps in her other. And honestly, guys, imagine if you had that, your life would be so much easier. Let's make your lives easy. It's a hard enough job. Okay, I'm going to talk about sellers, because this is a seller's market. We know that. How are you finding sellers, and what are some of the ways in which you're finding opportunities with sellers? Everybody wants more sellers right now.
Yes, they do, right? Unless they realize that they make the
They
least
make more
amount
money
per
with
hour.
buyers.
Yeah. So, first, actually, just because it popped into my head, two other ways to get your offers accepted, back to buyers super quick,
Yeah,
is
great.
one, becoming some add something personal and something funny, something slightly outlandish in the contract. If they like tickets, if they are, I don't know, Bear fans, buy them
Yeah.
tickets. Buy them tickets to like a concert. Maybe not Taylor Swift, but a concert. Something will have them be like, even if the offer price is lower, they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, wait, they thought of me. They realized that I like the Yankees, so now they got me Yankees tickets." Like, wow. So
Love
that's
that.
number one. Another one is a more aggressive one where you will offer 10K above if they accept it today. And if they don't accept it by
Ah.
today, it'll go down to this number.
Wow. How,
So
how often does that work, by the way? Have you like, do you have
it
a rough a percentage of how often you've tried that and how often it's actually, closed the deal?
it works more if you don't offer that on the first day of the listing.
Sure.
So, because of course they don't wanna tie themselves down when it's day 1. But week 3, if you offer that, you can get a good deal, like, "Hey, this is how much I'm gonna offer, but if you don't accept and starting tomorrow, it goes down to this number." Have both numbers work for the buyer, of course, but it's a great way to get a foot in.
Wow. I've
And
never heard anybody mention that. That is such a simple idea that I love that. I love that. It's
and
almost
then if
like,
you combine any of those.
oh yeah, if you combine them, all of a sudden now what you have is a very unique offer. Like, at the very least, it's unique. It's no one else is doing that, and you now have this, possibility of somebody, and it's funny, you have a cute little thing in there, or you have a gift, or something of value to them, and you just want to be unique. And I love all of this. Okay,
Yeah. So
let's get to sellers. So what are it's tough right now. Let's be honest to everyone. So I saw a statistic recently, and I'm probably off on this, but it's close enough. It's something like, I think it was 85% of U.S. homeowners currently have a mortgage under 4%. So it's something like that,
mm,
right around that number. So there's a huge disincentive, whatever the disincentivization, whatever. There's a huge disincentive to move. I don't know the word, but to move right now, right? So I have a 3% mortgage. Like, I'm not moving. I'm not going to a 7% mortgage unless I have to move, unless there's a really compelling reason, unless my home is appreciated so much where it's like makes sense to cash in on that. But that's a huge problem right now. So how are you still finding these seller opportunities?
I feel like my answer won't appeal to the masses, but again, it's my military community,
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
they have to
Move.
sell.
They move around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
move, and, if they have the investor landlord mindset, then they're not gonna sell, it's great, but a lot of times they do wanna sell, and but to try to appeal to more people that are not in the military, or if you're not in the military, maybe take that, like, military relocation, I don't know, some that cert, not for the 3 letters at the end of your name because nobody cares about that, I promise,
Right.
but just to get more of the inside scoop of, like, "Hey, what is life in the military like?" They have 10 days to find a house as soon as they move? That's short, you know?
Wow.
And knowing just the acronyms, you'll be able to get better suited and therefore talk to be in the military community. For those that are not, maybe it's like you're not near a military base or post, um, then at that point, I would suggest, I guess, uh, cold calling, like, and it hurts for me to say that because I don't like cold calling. I don't even answer the phone, but you can get a great success from that. Cold calling, even if you want to go off market direct to seller, I would probably shy away from postcards only because it's so money heavy. Where if you do not continue, which a lot of agents don't, majority do not, then you're going to think postcards don't work. So that's, direct mail can any strategy that you choose, if you stick with it long enough, it will work. You just have to choose a couple and stick with it.
I was just thinking, yes, and I could not agree with you more. Here's a great phone call, and I think it's a great phone call. Allie will tell me if it is or it isn't. So I'm a homeowner. I bought a new development a couple years ago, in a condo in a new development, and I have a thing on Zillow because I should have it on the MLS, but I do it on Zillow because it's easier, and it sends me a
Mhm.
report like once a month. And look, whatever we think about Zestimate, fine, but it's what our clients look at. So let's like at
Yeah.
least acknowledge that we should know what a Zestimate is, and whether how accurate or inaccurate it is. That's what people are using as a metric. So every month I get a little thing that says, hey, we think your home appreciated or depreciated by X. Now here's a great phone call because I set that up for myself. I got a thing a week ago that said your home appreciated an insane number, like 150 grand in the last 30 days, which, by the way, which sounds amazing, but that's not
Yeah.
really like the reality of the situation. But whatever it is, I noticed it. I was like, well, I'm still not moving, but like, here would be a great phone call. Hey, DJ, you don't know me. I'm a realtor. I was looking at your building. I don't know if you know this, but in the last 30 days, like I've seen I think the value of your property's appreciated an insane amount. If you want me just to ever shoot you over a little projection of what I think is happening, like I'd be happy to do that because most of us are not, who are out of the business, who are not in real estate, are not really watching our home value pricing. But I would like to know that my home appreciated X amount, and not one
Mhm.
realtor has ever, and maybe it's because I'm in the business, and I don't think everybody knows I'm in the business. I don't think anyone probably really knows I'm in the business, but I have never gotten that phone call. I have never gotten that email. I've never gotten a text from any realtor going like, hey, I want to run an updated comp because I think your home's worth a lot more than when you bought it, and I just want you to know what it's appreciated to. Curious to get your thoughts. Is that a good strategy, bad strategy? What do you think?
I think that's a great strategy because one, they realize that they took out time to personalize it. That's for you. That's not your neighbor. That's not somebody down the block. That's for you. So, and I hear people doing that all the time. Like, or they will even take a screenshot or print out the Zillow, the Zestimate, and say, "This is what Zillow thinks. What do you think?" I have my own opinion as well. Call me. And so something like that could work too.
Well, we're gonna wrap up right now. Not because I want to. I would talk to Allie all afternoon, but we are gonna get her back because we're gonna talk process. I mean, I have to sort of convince her that she can come back. But if she wants to come back, we want her because I want to bring this information to you guys, our audience. Allie, you are amazing. And by the way, you can learn this directly from Allie herself. You don't even have to wait for our show. So I want everybody to follow her on social media. We will have a link to her link tree or all her social channels. You have a link tree, so we'll use that. But we will also yeah, link tree Ali. Well, it's yeah, I'll put it in the chat or in the description. So we'll have a link to her website. We'll have a link to her link tree where you can follow her on social. And she gives this information away to any other agent that is interested. You can learn from her. You can even partner with her. You can be part of her group, her team. She is growing this massive team, and she's only 3 years in at this point. She's crushing it. She's doing it right, guys. This is a really good wagon to hitch to. So please find her, follow her online. Ali the agent, Ali the agent. Find her website, Garcia. Sorry, Garced. I was saying Garcia earlier. Garced Realty, Garced Realty, GARCED Realty.com. Link to that as well in the show notes. Please follow her. Consider joining her team. She can take agents from anywhere in the country, and her job is going to be to train you to do what she does. That's what she does. She actually trains agents. And if you're not getting that kind of sort of training and support from your existing firm, great opportunity to work with Ali. She's awesome. Her star is rising, and she's the real deal. So I am a huge fan of yours. Thank you, Ali, for being on the show. I hope our audience got as much excitement and value that I did. I know they will. I want to get all of your feedback. So please, everyone listening, let us know if you want to see and hear more of Ali. I know you do. But let me know so that I can work on making that happen. And I want to thank Ali on behalf of our audience. We know how busy she is. She's got a whole team. She's doing deals, and she is very busy. So thank you, Ali. And on behalf of Ali and myself, I want to thank the agents, or sorry, our listeners who are agents. Thank you for supporting our show, continuing to listen, support our sponsors, guys. They pay our bills. We love our sponsors. Please love them back. Check their products and services, and also just tell one friend about our show. Think of another agent that is struggling right now. Guess what? Most agents are struggling. So give them a reason to not struggle as much. Send them a link to this episode. You can send them to our website, keepingitrealpod.com. We're on every social platform. We do day to day. Well, we haven't done for the last few weeks, but we're doing almost daily video clips as well. So giving some short insights there. So follow us on social media. We're on every channel. And we will see everybody on the next episode. Ali, thank you so much. This was so much fun for me.
Thank you so much, DJ. I loved this. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ali. We'll see everyone on the next one.